Powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Now, live from inside the Matt Black Kia Studios. It's Football at 4.
Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. It's brought to you by PropSwap, America's sports betting marketplace. Sell your sports bets, take your profit, find out how. Go to PropSwap.com or download the PropSwap app today. Gene was our qualifier in the 2 o'clock hour from EHT. And Jeff in Summers Point will join him at Slack Tide Brewing Company. Gene and Jeff, you guys have a chance to win an Eagles road trip this season with hotel, airfare, a pregame tailgate party, and 2 tickets to the Eagles road game of your choice. One lucky listener will walk away with that trip. On April 28th, we'll be live at Slack Tide Brewing Company for our Eagles tailgate party, and one lucky listener will win that Eagles road trip. It's Happy Hour Friday for Football at 4, and Adam Caplan is here. A lot of NFL news happening on this Friday. What's going on, Adam?
Mike, good to speak to you here on the Sports Bash on a Friday. Yeah, we're less than 2 weeks from the draft. I'll actually be there in Las Vegas.
All right.
For my friends at Sports Grid, yeah, I've agreed to a deal. We're working a couple things out, but I'll be there for at least 2 days. I don't know about the third, but nevertheless, looking forward to going. It's been many years since I've been to the draft.
Were you in Philly?
Obviously, things have changed. I typically would go to Madison Square Garden for the draft almost every year. Then, of course, they started moving it around the country.
Were you in Philly?
Yes. In fact, Mosher and I hosted for another radio station just the first day. And what was so cool about that was it was just the craziness of the Mitch Trubisky pick was nobody knew it. The Bears kept it quiet. It sent shockwaves around the National Football League. We were there because I remember when they announced the trade that the Bears and Niners traded, I think those were the 2 teams. Jeff and I looked at each other, we're like, wait a minute, what could this possibly be? And we were so dumbfounded, like, wow, Mitch Trubisky, really? And here we are. He's now with the Steelers.
All right, well, let's get into some of the things. By the way, we talked about Steven Nelson signing a 2-year deal with the Texans. And I guess the Eagles seemed like they were in on Gilmore. So what does this mean for the Eagles at that cornerback position? They lose Nelson. They seemingly wanted to bring a veteran in, and now they're kind of left empty-handed and almost have to go through the draft now.
Yeah, they still need 2 corners. It's pretty much everything we outlined. It's crazy how this works out sometimes. Everything we outlined at the start of the free agency, it's the same. We'll go over their needs. They're pretty vast. They could certainly make a big jump this season if they nail the draft. They need a lot of their. They've got 5 picks in the first 3 rounds. At least 3 of them have to be starters for them to take a next step because they have got a lot of holes in this team, a lot of depth issues. The corner is the number 1 need for the football team. It's not close. They've got 1 starting corner who's over 30, who's terrific, Darius Slay. They don't have a second corner. They don't have a third corner. They got a bunch of 4s and 5s. They know this. This is not a secret to anybody who follows the team. They have some guys they like who have some length, who have some talent, but they're totally unproven. And that's where they're at. I mean, it's Steven Nelson, as we said on our show for months, we're not expecting him back. It was a total fallback option. If everything else failed through the draft, maybe they might revisit it. Well, they didn't need to because he's going to the Texans. And my understanding there is they think he'll be able to start, where here, even if they brought him back, which was remote, even if they did, he may not have even started here because they're going to address it in the draft. And now, though, remember, they only have 2 first-rounders, not 3. So that squeezes the choices a little bit.
Yeah, I know that you look at the 2 third-round choices and you wonder, do you want to put it in the lap of a third-round pick, or is this something they have to address with one of those 2 first-round picks? I mean, do they want to – now that they – I mean, I guess there's some free agents that are still available. Do you believe or think that they were in on Gilmore?
Jeff texted me after it was reported that he was going to the Colts that based on his sourcing on it, which has been really great throughout, he had said that it was overstated, that the Eagles' interest was not what had been out there. And he was told, within minutes after, that source with direct knowledge said that they weren't close. Whatever was reported was not what he was hearing. So were they in on it? Yeah, but they weren't in on it. Like in our reporting, we said they were super in on Marcus Williams. That was their top free agent target. It was either he goes to the Eagles or he goes to the Ravens. He chose the Ravens over him. They were in on Allen Robinson, but not super high, I'm told. In fact, they were pretty significantly off of what Robinson got. And so were other teams, by the way, because the Rams just simply overpay. No team overpays contracts more than the Rams, by the way.
Seemed to work out for them last year, right?
It does. Hey, listen, they got what they wanted. They gave him 2 prime draft picks for Von Miller was only there for half the season in the Super Bowl, and he's now in Buffalo on a monster contract. But it's not for everybody what the Rams are doing.
Yeah, so Nelson, 2-year deal with the Texans. Eagles, I feel like, last year, Adam, we were having this very similar conversation before they got Nelson. What are they going to do across from Slay? What's the plan there? Last year they got McPherson in the 4th round. So then after the draft, we were asking, what are they going to do? And then they finally brought Nelson in. I guess it was right before training camp started. So what's the plan at corner?
Yeah, the contract execution, I looked it up, was July 28th. I thought it was earlier than that. I couldn't believe it when I looked it up, as you just said. I'm like, whoa, right at training camp? Wow, was it that late? But see, the thing is, you can't depend on that. Okay, he was an average starter. He doesn't have great size. He doesn't run all that well, but he's super competitive, tough, and smart. You'd rather him be your 3rd corner, not your starting outside corner. That's really what they really needed him for. But they were unable to get that corner opposite Slay last year, so this is who they had. The plan is they're going to attack it in the draft. Now, I would expect by training camp they've added 2 corners. Now, whether it's a veteran and a rookie in the 1st or 2nd round, whether it's two rookies, the 1st or 3rd round, I can't answer that. They don't know that. I don't know that. We'll just see what their board looks like and how it looks. We'll do our reporting during the week of the draft, what we think they're going to do. We found out we first reported Rager was going to be probably the pick about 3 weeks before, 2 years ago, which obviously we talked about his situation. But this one is not so clear because, Mike, they have so many needs. This is. I hate to say it. I don't think much has changed. We said it probably for the last month or so that everything looks the same as it did before, and here we are once again. It looks like the same chief needs as they had before.
Well, and is that because they keep striking out with guys that they want? I mean, do they want to just bring guys in free agency and just can't convince them to come here, or getting outbid? I mean, it seems that they have tried at least.
Yes. Oh no, they were. What we reported back at the Combine turned out to be true. They were going to be very aggressive in free agency, and don't forget about Jay Glazer's report for Calvin Ridley. Because that would have been super aggressive. By the way, they were super aggressive. They offered around $14 million a year to Marcus Williams. They were in on other receivers. Now you can't. There's another nugget we're going to give you here in a second about another player they're looking at right now. We're told, but it's just cornerback. They can't line up today. I understand they have the rest of free agency in the draft, but if the season started today, they've got it. Their biggest need is corner. Now safety. That would have been solved. If they would have signed Marcus Williams, you're good because Epps would be the 3rd safety. Harris would be starting. He's got a very low deal, by the way. They still could draft one more guy, but they would be set and they didn't have to draft one in the first 3 rounds. Right now, I mean, safety is just wide open other than Harris. I don't know why they don't think Marcus Epps is a starter. It does surprise me because we were told he played fairly well last season.
Last year in the draft, there were the 2 corners, Horn and Surtain. Went 8 and 9. Philly ended up taking Smith at 10. Would they have taken one of those 2 guys had they been there at 10 in your mind?
Yes, I believe our reporting last year was going to be Surtain, although they really liked Horn. We were told that Surtain was higher on their board, and that's why, by the way, once what they did was the trade was dictated by who was up on their board next, and Devontae Smith was higher on their board than they were picking, so they said, let's just go get him. That's a smart thing, and by the way, they're on their way to getting it right. He had a very good rookie season, certainly wasn't perfect, but there were a lot of reasons why he didn't even do better. First of all, as we know, they took the air out of the football after the first 6 weeks, which nobody saw coming. And I do believe, I know people have asked us this, they're going to throw more, by the way. They're going to, not going to be 35 times. It was 34.6 times per game, as I sent you my notes a couple weeks ago after the first 6 weeks. I'm not expecting 35 times a game, but I would think high 20s, low 30s in pass attempts per game this season.
Right, and this year there's Booth, Gardner, Stingley, McDuffie.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit more depth in that first-round group of corners. So at 15, they might have the option of taking a guy, something they didn't have last year.
Correct, right. So they don't have to trade up for a corner. Although I'm not expecting Sauce Gardner to drop past 6 or 7. Well, the Panthers aren't going to go for a corner. They got Horn, and they're really deep a corner. But the Panthers, my understanding is they're not ruling out trading down. It's just it's going to come down to the value, because the Panthers need to. By the way, we reported last year, leading up to the draft, that the Eagles and Panthers were in pretty significant talks about a trade, just of draft picks, moving up, and they backed off. The Eagles backed off, and that was that. But so at least they have a working relationship, and the Panthers called the Eagles, as we reported last year, on Dillard.
Yeah,
at the trade deadline. So they at least have a working relationship. There are people who used to work for the Eagles, by the way, in the Panthers building, so they know each other. We'll see. We'll see what the Panthers want to do. But the Panthers need a left tackle, which the Eagles don't need. They still need a left tackle. They don't have one right now. They don't have a quarterback, starting quarterback. They don't know who. They don't want it to be Sam Darnold, so they're looking. So we'll see what happens.
Here's an interesting under talked about conversation, I guess, Adam, is the Eagles' return game has been miserable for the last couple of years. They have tried to find someone to return kicks and punts really since Sproles, retired and was injured. They have not been able to find a guy. Is that something they looked through in the draft? Is there a veteran out there that they might have their eye on?
Yeah, Mike. So we reported at the Combine that they were in on Richie James. They'd have to wait till free agency started to talk contract with him, the agent. But that was one guy they identified, and came down to the Giants and Eagles. He chose the Giants. We're told that they're interested in Andre Roberts, veteran kickoff punt returner, who's one of the best. He's been a Pro Bowler before. The Chargers tried to bring him back, but he's looking for a little bit more money. We'll see what happens, but there are other teams involved with trying to sign Roberts, so we'll see what goes on there. I don't know that it would happen before the draft. It just depends on where he's at with money. But Mike, their return game was atrocious last season. Let's call it like it was. It was because Rager was not the punt returner he was in college, where he was dynamic. I don't have an answer for you. What happened? Look, they cleared up the kicker. They got Jake Elliott going. They did a great job with reviving his career. He was terrific. But they've got to find out some way to get the return game going, Mike. This cannot continue.
Well, you're right. And you mentioned Rager, so let's go to the Rager and his whole situation and what his next 2 weeks might look like, or his draft night might look like.
Yeah, just the sense I get is the Eagles are not going to give him away. We put on our show a couple of days ago, which you can get on any pod platform or on YouTube, that the Eagles are not going to cut him. Or should they? The guy's a former first-round pick. We know he's been disappointing. No one's ignoring that. It's obvious. I would just think that let's take a look at what happens during the draft. This is not the Zach Ertz situation last year, where they were motivated. They tried. They both parties were ready to move on. Eagles tried. They could not get what they thought was reasonable value, so they held on to him. In fact, prior to the draft last year, I think the best offer they had was a 6th-round pick. They wound up getting the corner. I think it's Gowan in a 5th. It's not great value, but see, Ertz was coming off ankle surgery, and then he was fine, as we know, last year. In fact, he signed a new deal with the Cardinals.
Yep.
But this situation right now with Rager is that you don't have good enough tape to get like a 3rd-round pick for this year. I can't see it because he just has not put good enough tape together. That he had some really good moments in year one, but remember he had 2 injuries this past season, where he's supposed to be better than he was in year one. He wasn't even close to as good in year one. So you have to throw your hands up. And remember, Sirianni, once he said that he saw Quez Watkins as being potentially the best number 2 receiver he's ever to work with, whatever that really means. Well, you add that, the fact that he tried to trade for Calvin Ridley, tried to sign Allen Robinson. They were in on Juju Smith-Schuster. That tells you that Rager's best opportunity to play elsewhere. He's not going to have a role here. That's why logic tells you that he should be moved, but we'll have to see.
What do Corral, Olave was in yesterday, Jameson Williams, there's Pickens, so 3 wide receivers. What do these visits tell you? What do they say about their thought process? Anything?
Yeah,
is it just them doing due diligence?
Yeah, Mike, this is a good subject because I think fans sometimes go overboard in the visits. They don't understand what they mean. most of the time, not all the time, most of the time it's not done because of the player. It's done because they need information on the player. It doesn't mean they're going to draft him. What happens is there's always a reason why they want information. George Pickens, ACL reconstruction from November 2020. They want to see where that is. Jameson Williams, ACL reconstruction. They want to see where he's at. Now, what I'll tell you where it means something. No one in the country tracked these more than I did. I was like crazy. I would track over 200 to 300 visits over a series of years and private workouts. It became really apparent to me that if a team has 30 visits and 7 to 10 or one position, it's almost certain they're going to draft that position, number one. Number two, if it's like 5 guys are going to go in the first round, there's a very good chance they're going to draft that position, not that player, but that position in the first 2 rounds. It's like really very, very consistent. So don't worry about the player, folks. When you see Matt Corral was in, Devontae Wyatt, I'm told, was in, Lave was in, Sam Williams was in, Pickens was in, Kenny Green, I'm told, was in, who's a guard. Marcus Jones, I'm told, was in. Brisker was in. There's a DN from Penn State who was in also. And by the way, a lot of these players on our latest intel with Greg Cosell, Greg has got some great information on all these players. So we also, this coming Wednesday, we drop on pod the quarterback one. Wait till you hear this one. They've all been great, Mike. I know you've heard some of them. This one, we could have done 3 hours. We were like, I wish we were together to have a roundtable. The talk was so good between me, Jeff, and Greg. And he's got some great stuff with Matt Corral.
All right, last one for Adam Caplan here. 2 weeks left to go, actually under 2 weeks now. Adam, what does your pre-draft board need look like at this moment 2 weeks to go?
All right, it's the same as it was at the start of free agency. They need 2 outside corners. They're good in the slot. They need a safety. That would have been eliminated if they would have gotten Marcus Williams, but they didn't. They still need 2 wide receivers. However they want to do that. They may argue, one, I don't agree with that. If they want to be a really good football team, they need to get 2. They definitely need a D tackle. Remember, the draft is not about this year. It's about future needs with current in mind. You would like to get something out of that first or second round pick, obviously in year one. You expect them to start or certainly be in the rotation. For the future, they need D tackles. At DN, they absolutely need DNs. They could use a running back and a tight end. So, again, lots of needs, 10 draft picks, 5 in the first 3 rounds. We'll see if they keep all 10.
All right, there you go. And Eagles have 10 picks, as he just chronicled, and that's Thursday night, April 28th. Eagles pick number 15, 18, 51, 83, 101, and then I lose track.
There you go.
That was off the top of my head there. Adam Caplan.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I haven't, we'll zero in on those numbers, but yeah, it's going to be fun because they could go in so many directions. And as one GM told me this week, because 8 teams don't have a first-round pick and 8 teams have a first-round pick, there could be some trading during the draft of these picks, depending on if teams lose their player or the player gets closer and they want to trade up. It's really interesting.
I don't want to see what will happen if a game 6, because the Sixers would play the same night as the draft.
Oh, my God. And by the way, now I don't expect it to happen, to be clear here. But if the Eagles shocked us like they did with Hurts 2 years ago, what if they drafted a quarterback in the first round? That would be it would be surprising. I don't care what anybody says. That would be the shocker. It would be like everyone's hair. Because do you remember the shock of everyone on social media when they drafted Hurts in the second round?
Yeah, absolutely. It was wild.
So quick story. I did not. I had the TV on the background, but I had the sound down. I was texting someone when it happened, and the guy went crazy. He goes, "Oh my God, Philly!" And I looked back, and I was like, I couldn't. You never have something happen, you're shocked with, you don't know how to process it.
Yeah.
I didn't. I was in total shock. I was like, I froze. I'm like, oh my God, what did they just do?
Will you do that if they draft a linebacker?
Oh my God, 43 years, Jerry Robinson. By the way, Jerry Robinson was a really good player. I'm old enough to remember him out of UCLA.
Yeah.
But I would be that would be okay. What would be the bigger shocker to you, Mike? A linebacker or quarterback? First round.
Probably oh man.
Pure linebacker though, not this pass rush stuff, but pure linebacker.
Yeah, no. I think in this year's draft I would be quarterback.
Yeah,
because I think
they're at how much they love Hurts.
They're at a point.
You know what would be funny? Wouldn't it be great if they drafted a quarterback and then Sirianni would come on, because this would be so typical of him. Oh, we still love Jalen.
Yeah.
We love him, but he's going to compete for the job. Whatever, because they've. it's just funny with the Russell Wilson love, and he didn't want to come to Philly, and then with Watson, and it is what it is. We'll see what happens.
Would they be in on Murray if Murray was getting traded?
I don't think so. That's not that. I don't see it. I don't see it. And by the way, that's another. We don't have enough time left here. That's another different discussion. That's a really fascinating situation there, by the way.
All right, Adam Caplan, Football at 4, InsideTheBirds.com, the Inside the Birds podcast. Get that wherever you listen to your podcast, all the Inside the Birds platform, YouTube. You can listen to the Draft Intel with Greg Cosell. Check out Inside the Birds everywhere you get your podcast and online at InsideTheBirds.com. Adam, have a great weekend, man.
You too, man. Thanks.
All right, that's Adam Caplan, of course, Football at 4 on a Friday. He joins us here